that all of the board members are present, and let me just say real quick on the dedication, we had board members come from out of town, from conferences to get here, and we even had one get out of the hospital, and it's ready to say, it's great to have you.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
All right, guys, if we'd all stand, invocation, and we'll follow it out with the pledge. God, just thank you for being with us. Please be with us with the weather that comes in tonight. Continue to be with our schools on Friday as we have some teams traveling, some teams playing at home. Just be with all of our athletes and spectators during that time. Continue to lay your hands on our schools. Please keep our kids safe, our teachers, administrators safe. Please give us wisdom in what we do tonight. Just let me pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members, you've received the agenda for the meeting. May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
I second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand.
All right, thank you, Mr. Holland. Board members, there's a couple of items on the consent agenda tonight. Item number 1 contains a list of items that are no longer in working condition and need to be disposed. With regards to item number 2, we've recently been allocated $1,410,250 to purchase 11 new buses. This money came from the State Department. In order to use the funds, we have to pay out of pocket between $103,000 and $149,000, depending on which option we go. The cost difference is because one of the quotes includes ACs on the buses. Based on our current financial condition, I would recommend that we purchase the 11 buses without AC, so that it's less out of pocket cost for us. I know that's a short consent agenda, but that's all I have listed. Are there any questions on anything that was covered? At this time, I recommend approval for the consent agenda as presented.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. May I get a motion to approve?
So,
A second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand.
All right, at this time, I recommend approval of the personnel report as presented.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. May I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
All right. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Poe to come forward and provide us with the August 2024 bank and financial statements.
Good evening. Welcome on this dreary night, and I'm glad y'all all made safe travels, and welcome back.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the financial analysis, we're looking at August. So we're going toward the end of our fiscal year. We should have been around 92% of our budget. As senior snapshot analysis, we've exceeded our revenues budgeted, but that's because we received all of the supplemental grants for 25 years early. With regard to our expenditures, we are within our budget. We have done 92% of our expenses, or 80 million as budgeted. Our fund balance for August was at 53 million, and our payroll for August was 6.7 million. Regarding local revenue analysis, we have collected 20.6 million. We've reached what we had predicted for budgets. We know we've still got September, but usually that is a lax month with regard to local revenues. We have fully allocated and met all of our state match needs with what we had budgeted this year. Are there any questions about August financials? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poe. At this time, I recommend approval of the August 2024 bank and financial statements as presented.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. May I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
All right, we're gonna continue to let Ms. Poe have her time. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Poe to present our budget for the 24-25 school year.
Okay, so this is the second and final public hearing. This will be a condensed version, as there have been no changes to what was presented on Monday night. So once again, our state funds are determined based on our ADM. The ADM information or average daily membership information that we have received is based on the 24 the 23-24 school year at the 20-day head count. That's a lot of 20s in there. So it's our student numbers from the prior school year that affects our funding for this year. There you can see our ADM trim, from 2019 to current year. This is a brief snapshot of our unit breakdown. You can see that we decreased our units by 8, almost 9 units. That includes a librarian. This is a detailed breakout. This is in your packet, and it's in the packet available for the public of what each state earned units were at each local school. This is how the foundation program breaks out. The foundation program is what the state provides to us, and this is how it's broken out. It's a total of $64 million, broken out among salaries and benefits, other current expenses, which we refer to as OCE a lot, and then the classroom instructional support, such as student materials, professional development, technology, and for this year, common purchases. Our ETF program is at $55 million. We receive money from school nurses. That's to ensure that we have one nurse at each school. We have a portion of the technology coordinator. Within the state funds, we have our transportation that helps assist with operating. Keep in mind, that does not always fully cover transportation due to rising diesel costs, parts, etc. So sometimes local revenues and or their mileage money that they get from the local schools assist in covering any overages that they have. We have our fleet renewal funds, which goes to assist in paying the debt related to buses that we have purchased through bonds. And then we have our capital purchase money, which the state provides to assist in either construction, renovation, or bond debt. We are required to do a local match with any state money. Our foundation program, local match, is based off of 10 meals, and for this year, we're at 10 million, slightly over 10 million. For our capital purchase fund, we are at 439,000 that we must match. So total local revenues is almost $10.5 million that we must match with our state programs. So here lists out the different funds. General fund holds the state and local funds. Special revenue holds local schools' public money, CMP, and federal grants. And then we have our capital projects, our debt service, and then our fiduciary funds is our local school non-publics and any other scholarship outside that's a benefactor to our school. So total proposed budget, our general fund revenues are at 87 million. Our special revenues at 17 million, debt service at 2.9, capital projects at 1.6, and fiduciary funds at 496, which is a total of 109 million revenues for all funds. For our expenses, general funds at 97 million, special revenue at 16, debt service at 2.7, capital projects at $1 million, and fiduciary less than $500,000. So total expenses are 117 million. Here's the breakdown. Of the 87 million, 65 is state. 21 million is local. And you can see that the majority of our general fund money comes from our state programs, with our local monies accounting for 24% of our revenues in the general fund. Here's our expenditures in the general fund broken out by functions. This is how we have to identify the categories in which our money is utilized. We have instructional, operations, auxiliary, administrative, capital outlay, debt service, and other. Other expenditures, sometimes I get this question, what does that mean? That's transfers, like our CMP transfer that we have to send for pass-through. That's lumped in there. It's transfers that we send out to the local schools for their capital improvement projects that they get, assistance with office during the summer. So all of that money is listed in other expenses. And as you can see, we spend the majority of our money, as we should, involved in instructional areas, instructional services at 71%. So our revenues, we've got budgeted at 87, our expenses at 97. That leaves a deficit of 9.3. Please keep in mind, we received a lot of that supplemental allocation revenues in 24 year. The expenses are in 25 year. So that's skewing the numbers slightly. If you remove those $9.5 million worth of expenses, then we're to the good $200,000, as long as nothing breaks, or as long as we don't need additional personnel. With that said, with anybody else that is needed additional for classroom purposes or any other area, it's coming out of local revenue. We've utilized and allocated each and every state dollar that we have. If we get additional funding from different special ed grants or other state grants, then we will accommodate and move from there. So we're looking at ending our fund balance with 40 million. That's a good number. For most places, that would be meaning they're planning for something down the road, as far as like building or renovation. Well, we are planning for something down the road. We're planning to help keep our schools staffed, is what we're doing. So we're looking at, I'm keeping this reserved, so over the next couple of years, we'll be able to keep our current staffing the way it is. Any questions about general fund? Our special revenues, like we talked about earlier, federal programs, CMP, and local schools. We have 17 million budgeted for special revenues. If you remember last year, we had a lot more. We decreased our special revenues by about 8 million. That's because ESSER money has now gone away. So that is no longer a factor in this. With ESSER money going away, that's a lot of other things that went away with that, such as the luxury of professional development for everyone and not having to worry about picking and choosing and train the trainer. It allowed us to offset some of our general fund supplies and put it on ESSER with custodial. Now all that's back on general fund. So as you'll see, our federal monies is at 10.5 with local, that's your local schools at 3.3, and other revenue sources, that would be a part of like the CMP pass-through. We break out, like we do in general fund, our instructional sources, operations and maintenance, auxiliary, etc. So as you can see on this chart, our instructional and the special revenue is at 75%. We have bond debt. Now we're working through reducing a lot of this. We were able to pay off this past year the 2017 bus loan that we had with Regions Bank, so that reduced and freed up some fleet renewal money. For this year, we received 2.6 million from the state for our public school funds, capital money. We have bond principal for 2015 and interest, bond interest for 2018, the key scab and the 2008 bond. These are old state bonds that we participated in via the state. The state held the bonds. They asked school districts if they wanted to participate. We did. Now we have to pay our portion back along with other districts. And then we have our 2021 kindergarten school interest that we do. Fleet renewal, we're down to 2 bond fleet renewals that we're paying. That's the 2018 and 2021. You'll notice on the 2018 and 2021, we are already paying interest. Whereas on the other side, we don't start paying interest, we don't start paying principal on the 2018 bond until the 2015 bond is gone. The 2015 bond will completely be gone in 2028. Now, we are utilizing the capital K-12 money. Y'all voted on that Monday to do that resolution. What it does is it helps eliminate, or it helps relieve the general fund and our capital money of having to pay principal for a couple of years. I'm still gonna have to pay a smaller portion of interest, but I still have to pay interest because that is not a closeout bond yet. We pick back principal payments up in 2027. So our local revenues, as I showed you earlier, we have 21 million designated for local revenues. Here's the breakout. We're required of our local revenues 10 million to match state foundation, 439 to match the capital funds. We're required to do our CMP pass-through of 2.3 million. We're use this for bond debt if we don't have enough of our capital money from the state to cover the bond debt. We're required to meet a certain dollar amount in special ed maintenance of effort. Right now, I think that's around 413,000. We have to do pre-K matching funds. We have coaching supplements, and then this year we have moved all central office into the local revenues to help free up money from other current expenses. Because of our sped grants decreasing and other grants decreasing, we had to pull, and ESSER going away, the staffing that were on those, they're now back on state foundation, so we removed all central office and put that on local revenues. So total for our entire budget, all funds, we have 69 million state, 25 million local, 4 million other, and 10 million federal. And this is our breakout in our, total expenses for all funds. You can see that 50% of all of our funds and all of our expenses are dedicated to instructional. Okay, so we have some budget challenges that we've gotta look at. ADM decreasing, federal funding that are utilizing a lot of money at Otagoville and Billingsley because they're both K-12 schools. They don't earn enough teacher units to support a full K-12 school, so we have to utilize a lot of Title I funding for those two schools. With our ADM decreasing, that affects our federal funding as well. We don't have enough funding to support all of pre-K. Now, I will say this, pre-K money went up this year. We're so thankful for that. Our grants increased. It's still not enough to fully fund each of those programs. Not all our schools earn an AP. Not all of them earn a counselor, so we have to use teacher units to assist with those areas. We have a great increase in our special ed population. We have to use state money, local money to meet the needs of those students. We have to look at how we're gonna maintain our summer programs down the road, our instructional software requirements that we have, things that we've gotten accustomed to doing with ESSER money, that now we don't have that financial flexibility to do things with, nor do we have the availability. So now we have to get creative and see how we're gonna support that down the road. We have a small staff for maintenance, we have a small staff for technology. And in order to help keep up with things and help serve without having to go contract services, we're having to utilize both because of those for a district this size, because of those small staff. Child nutrition program, we went to the community eligibility program, All Kids Eat Free. That's a great program, but it does have some effects on how our federal funds are applied. Our Second Chance program is funded through local or a state grant that we have to apply for each year via at-risk funds. We have our first year virtual school. We're handling those salaries and benefits this way. Down the road, we were also fortunate that with the ESSER money, we were able to utilize some of that to help with the software for this virtual program. So with it now becoming a school, we're hoping to see some state funding come in next year, but we're gonna be a year behind in that. Questions, cause it's a lot to think about, it's a lot to go through. Right now, we're okay, but we still have to be mindful of what projects we pursue and how we lay out, what our goals are. This budget year is starting October 1. I'm done with this, I'm already thinking about 26. And so for everything that we do, we're gonna have to start thinking, what's the effect of this 2 to 3 years down the road? I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowden. All right, I got one. Yeah, at this time, I recommend approval of the 24-25 school year budget as presented.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. May I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Board members, just a couple quick updates in terms of some of the projects we were discussing earlier. Like Ms. Poe said, these projects, again, I'll remind everyone, were used with different funds than what we were talking about. But just a couple of quick announcements. Final inspection at Prattville Kindergarten is gonna be September 25th. You know, I told you guys, I think last board meeting that had gotten delayed. We'll update everyone after that meeting in terms of when we're looking at moving into the new building. They are currently working through some of the punch list stuff as it sits, but again, that final inspection will know a little more. We have a meeting also on September 25th with the Parks and Rec Department of Prattville, where we will look at that last home game and look at the feasibility of that as well. So I'll be able to update everybody after that meeting, hopefully a little more in detail. As you know, we're renovating Toggleville's gym. The architect, Mr. Barrington, met with him again today. They're hoping to put that out for bid around mid-October, so we're getting close on that as well. Also, Mr. Barrington met with the architect as well with the restroom renovations. He had to make some adjustments on some of that. They're gonna have another meeting next week, so that's getting close to starting on that as well. And finally, we are looking at a meeting tomorrow with the architect regarding the Prattville High School Fieldhouse renovation. So, got a lot of projects moving. The key on all that is every architect knows that we're on a tight schedule because we have to have those funds used by the end of September next year. So it's gonna be a tight window, but we feel pretty good. But just wanted to give you a quick update with construction. Are there any questions about anything? All right, that's all we got.
There being no further business, may I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second? All those in favor, please raise your hand.